Through your worship, we're live.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Welcome everyone to our council meeting. It is now approximately 5:30, so we're continuing our agenda for Monday, June the 27th, 2022. Council did meet in camera at 4:30 for a brief in-camera session, and then we recessed until 5:30 to join you all here. First of all, to get the meeting started, before anything else, I just want to acknowledge that we have a new staff person who's joining us today for her first council meeting. So I'd ask you all to welcome our clerk, Barbara Kane. She's seated right here next to me. Nice to have Barbara with us. And Barb Kane joins us as our clerk, as our current clerk. Sasha will be taking leave with her family very shortly. So we're really excited for Sasha and her family. So Barbara, welcome to the table, and we look forward to a good meeting today. Thank you very much. All right, members of council, picking up on the agenda, at this time, I'd like to acknowledge that we have a land acknowledgement. So I would like to begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards of and caretakers of the land. And we acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Tiananati, the Wendat, and is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples as part of an intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. And at this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and new relationships, and ask for the guidance in all that we do. And again, I always say this voluntarily, that it's my honor to say that land acknowledgement on behalf of the township as the mayor. So council, at this time, we'll move to our agenda. Looking at our agenda, item number 1 was our in-camera session. So item number 2 is approval of the agenda. Recommendation be it resolved, Council of the Township Clearview hereby approve the agenda dated June 27, 2022 as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Mr. Broderick, Deputy Mayor, and anything further? No, seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Item number 3 is disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Is anybody going to do disclosures during this session of our meeting? Seeing none, if anything comes up, please bring it forward. We'll deal with it appropriately at that time. Item number 4 is our public participation period. Council, this is a great time for us to acknowledge that we're really pushing through COVID and recovery of COVID. And at this time, we have public participation available in our council chambers right here where it should be. And we're very happy to have members of the public in attendance here tonight here at our council chambers. And so we're at this time, I'm going to call out the script for the public participation period and ask if there's anybody like to speak. Please be advised that comments and views expressed under public participation period are not the views of Township of Clearview, council, or the administration. Public participation is limited to 15 minutes. Each person is limited to 5 minutes. Questions or comments are be directed to the mayor, and questions shall not refer to personnel matters, litigation, or potential litigation, or planning matters that have already had a public meeting or any item considered confidential. And as always, please remember to share the time with your fellow citizens. So at this time, the microphone is open. Does anyone from the public wish to come forward? Welcome. Nice to hear from you.
Your worship, members of council and staff. I could hardly let this opportunity go by and not say how nice it is to be back in council chamber tonight to share the meeting with you folks. I tried to remember when the last time I was sitting in the audience, so watching the proceedings here tonight. To be honest, I couldn't remember when it was, years ago, I guess. But it's nice to see us getting back to some semblance of normality in the community. I spent a fair amount of time this afternoon picking weeds out of my garden, and while I was doing that, I was thinking about the beautiful new development that has been finished now. I guess it's in the Brock Street and Highway 26 vicinity. And as I was picking the weeds, I realized that the last time I was there, the new garden that's been put in is becoming a little overrun with weeds. And so, like any good gardener, the township has a garden that I think needs to have some attention given to it. And hopefully there will be a procedure or a some sort of regular attention given to that area because it's so nice at this point in time. It would be a shame to see it go to weed, but that's not really what I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
I had something that I made some notes about that I wanted to ask about and perhaps have you give some consideration to. Got my tax statement in for the second half, the final tax bill. And I noticed that back as far as 2006, according to the files I've got, and as late as 2020, our taxes were scheduled to be paid in installments in March, June, September, and November. That was over an 8-month period. In 2021, it was March, June, August, and October. So the time period that we had to pay our taxes was shrunk to 7 months. In 2022, it's changed from March to March, May, July, and September. That's shrunk it down to 6 months. Now, to make matters a little more confusing, on the website, it says March, June, August, and October. So I think there's a problem here that we could make some amendments to try to get things back into some sort of a consistent basis. I don't know why it was changed. There wasn't anything that I could remember seeing published about a change in the tax collection procedures, the timing. But the inconsistency of the way it's been going on lately makes it a little difficult for people to budget. If you don't know when your taxes are actually going to be due and you put so much aside every month, all of a sudden you're caught with a 2-month period instead of a 3-month period. It makes things a little difficult. The other thing that I think needs to be considered is that people who have mortgages, they end up paying their taxes through their mortgage company. And that is done with a monthly contribution through their monthly payment. So over a period of time, they should build up enough to cover their taxes. And then annually, the bank or the mortgage company would look at the total amount of taxes. If they were short, they would increase the monthly payment. But if you compress the payment period from 8 months to 6 months, all of a sudden, there's not enough money being collected to meet the installments when they're due. As a result, their tax account goes into overdraft, and they end up having to pay interest on the money that they owe to us here in Clearview Township. So I think maybe it's time for reconsideration, get back to the old schedule of 2020, unless there's some very good reason to change the schedule. But let's make it permanent. Let's not change it every year.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Charlton. Perhaps if you just hang on a minute, if I can go to the CAO, Mr. CAO, would you be able to address that question, or should we go right to our treasurer, Mr. CAO?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we should go to our treasurer. I think we're following provincial legislation, but she can speak to it.
Yeah, okay. I certainly recall hearing about it as provincial legislation. Mr. Charlton, on the screen, I guess, over here is Kelly McDonald, our treasurer. Hello, Kelly.
Hello, Your Worship. Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. The tax due dates have been realigned to match our service providers. So the County of Simcoe and the education boards that we collect taxes for, these match their due dates now, which is very common among municipalities. What I'd like to suggest to Mr. Charlton is our pre-authorized payment plan, and that will spread it out over 10 months.
I see. So there's a 10-month program rather than a 4 to 5 month or 5 installment plan. Is that correct?
Correct. So the first 5 installments are taken based on 50% of last year's, and then the final are based on the final taxes.
I see. Bob, does that help?
I guess it would if that's the way you wanted to pay your taxes. I don't particularly want to have a debit going through my account to pay my taxes. I would prefer to pay them as they have traditionally been scheduled. I don't know whether that will change the problem with people who are paying their taxes through their mortgage tax account. I don't think it will.
I don't have experience with that personally, so I don't know.
Well, I have a lot of experience.
Okay, I appreciate you would, and that's why I'm glad I take your point. I appreciate that, Bob. Perhaps that's something we can ask the senior managers to discuss and see what can be done about this, or how we can better communicate that in advance, as the taxation obviously will continue as a revenue source for the municipality. So perhaps I'll ask the CIO if that would be comfortable to have a discussion at the senior management level.
I guess just the last thing I'd say is that it seems to have changed the last 3 years, and it's changed annually. If that continues, it's just going to make the confusion more difficult to deal with.
Right.
So if it's being realigned, let's get it done and get it over with. Let's not do it piecemeal. Thanks very much.
That's good advice. And by the way, that also plays into the entire commentary about recovery from COVID, that everything needs to be adjusted. We all have to be flexible. So appreciate that. Thank you, Bob, for your comments. Bob Charlton, and also a volunteer with us at the township. So appreciate that. Is anybody else? All good? Well, thank you very much for public participation period in person. Once again, council, that worked out pretty good. All right, members of council, we're going to move on to deputations and presentations, item 5, and I believe we have none. So then we'll move to item 6, which is our public meeting section. I believe we have none. And approval of the council meeting minutes is item 7. So I'll read that. We have one set of minutes. Be it resolved, the council of the township of Clearview hereby approve the minutes of the June 13, 2022 council meeting as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Mr. Lamers, Councillor Deneen, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you. Business arising from the minutes, if any? Members? Nothing? Thank you. Communications from the mayor, council. We do have a couple things here. Okay, first of all, closed session. I do have a report to come out of closed session. There's 2 items. The first item is that we're council agreed to appoint an additional member to our volunteer board at the Ottawa Memorial Community Center. And so later on in the agenda, there's an on-desk bylaw to amend the appointment bylaw. And so we welcome our new volunteers. The second item is a resolution regarding a funding opportunity. And so I do have an open session resolution to be read, and I'll look for a mover and seconder at the conclusion of me reading this. Members of council, be it resolved that council of the township of Clearview hereby support the township's application for funding to facilitate recovery and long-term growth of the tourism economy in Clearview to go towards developing a sustainable and strategic tourism plan for the municipality, and that if the township is successful in receiving funding, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the funding agreement. Can I get a mover and seconder on this motion? Okay, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Broderick, thank you very much. Council, we did have a good discussion in camera on this. Is there any further that needs to be discussed? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? And it carries unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, so that's 9.1-1 and 2. Then we go to 9.2, Municipal Engineers Association retention, professional engineers in Ontario municipalities. Anybody have any questions on that? Yes.
Question, did we miss the communications from the mayor?
That's where I'm at, 9.1, 9.2.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, 9.1, 9.2. 9.2 is municipal engineers. Any questions on that report? No? Okie dokie. Recommendation, be it resolved that council of the township of Clearview hereby receive communications from the mayor for information. Thank you, Mr. Broderick. Councillor Leishman, anything further? Yes.
I'd like to get the chair and the mayor's permission to receive a letter that we received this afternoon regarding an item that we'll be discussing this evening on this evening's agenda. It would be a letter from Janet Logan, and a copy was received by all of council, and I would like it to be to receive included in the. There's no need to read it,
Yeah.
just to receive it. This is a bit of a transition from our digital input in public participation to this new format. And unfortunately, she couldn't be here.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would accept that, given the fact that the public have had access to our email, as in council@clearview.ca. All members of council receive that email. That's confirmed by our clerk's department and our IT department that it does go to all of our email addresses. So I encourage anybody from the public to use council@clearview.ca to communicate. And also, given that it's only been a week since we've decided that we would have open mic in our session, I'm comfortable receiving the letter if members of council are comfortable receiving it. So can I just ask for a mover and a seconder to receive it on the, okay, Tom and Councillor Lamers, thank you very much. Members of council, you understood the ask? All right, you've all received the letter on the amendment. All those in favor? And we'll carry that. So Madam Clerk can just record that as 9.3, a letter from the resident. All right. And so the original recommendation to, yes, go ahead.
So that brings to mind then the letter that you distributed to us from Garth Wilson and Debbie Harris and the Careers. So should that be added as well? Or
to be frank, they didn't ask.
Okay.
So did they ask you? They asked me to distribute it, which I did. I distributed it to all members of council.
Right. I'm not too concerned about it. I noticed that it was addressed to you, just to
Yes.
the mayor. It wasn't addressed to council and it was just sent to you. So
That's correct.
but okay. No, that's fine.
And I did exactly as I explained a minute ago. I forwarded it to council@clearview.ca. So all members of council received it.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
Good point. I appreciate that.
Thought I'd bring it up. Thank you.
And again, council and for the public, just to be fair, this is a transition time where we're trying to make things work comfortably for everybody, and we're getting there. So thank you, everybody. All right, I think we have a mover and seconder on this resolution already, if I'm not mistaken. I believe we do. I'll just call the motion. All those in favor? And again, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, item 10, county reports. Deputy Mayor, we have a whole lot of things on our county report. Sometimes at these meetings, we don't. Today, we've got quite a few. Would you like to speak on any of these items, Barry, or?
Sure, I'll just briefly go over. Thank you, Your Worship, very much. Yeah, there's been a few things happening at county. Just like to mention that the Deputy Mayor of Wasaga Beach, Sylvia Bray, has been elected to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities as on the board of directors there. So it's nice to have colleagues in our, in our neighbors to be part of that. The real exciting thing is actually been the Kirkland's Wobbler makes an appearance. And the great thing about it is the 100th anniversary of Simcoe County's forests, which we won the award for being the best municipal forest in Canada. And 50 years ago, this particular species of bird was literally on the verge of being extinct. There was very few of them left. And we at county, our county forest staff created a special environment, a special natural area to increase and bring back this the Kirkland's Wobbler. And they are now appearing in our forest. So great success for the county and great success for, the environmentalists in our area, and just great news. Also entrepreneur award grants for giving out to support new tourism ideas. And there is a list in the report if you're interested in that. The county is having their statutory public meeting on official plan amendment. So there is official meetings coming up. You can check on the website to see when that is. And as you all know, there's an election coming up in October. And the county of Simcoe and all the municipalities in the county are looking for people to help out to be an election auditor volunteer. If there's any interest in that, please feel free to contact your local municipality or the county of Simcoe. They'd be happy to talk to you. Thank you, Your Worship. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, I look forward to the meeting tomorrow. It is going to be a full agenda. It's both a committee of the whole meeting and a council meeting in a combined format. As well, there's a meeting about the MCR process, the Municipal Comprehensive Review, many delegations. So it will be a very busy, long meeting tomorrow. It'll be a virtual meeting. I believe there will be some members that'll actually be attending the House. Most members are virtual in the Zoom format for that meeting. So I look forward to that. Any questions from members of council on these items from the county? No? I've personally never seen a Kirkland warbler before. I'm kind of interested to see what they look like, but nevertheless.
Well, the fortunate thing is you can now go to the
You can now go
museum
see them.
tract
Yeah.
and go see them because there's many people who have never seen
I know.
them. So,
My wife's the bird person in our family. She knows all about that stuff.
and I'm
I
with you.
don't.
I've never seen one, but I look forward, only seen it in pictures. So I look forward to, as I said on the museum committee as well as your worship.
Yeah.
That's something we can look forward to.
I look forward to it indeed.
Oh, and I thought of something that I would like to
Oh,
add.
okay, go ahead.
Is his worship was with me and myself, and we were at the museum committee meeting, and we went for a tour of the train,
That's right.
which is the old locomotive that was in front of the Barrie waterfront, which is now at Simcoe County Museum, and they actually laid. I believe it was a kilometer of track.
Yeah.
They actually had volunteers come and lay a kilometer of track to set the train on. It's quite amazing, quite worth going to see, and has quite a great history.
There's a restoration project underway to put it back into shape where it's on a display. It will likely never actually function as a locomotive again, but it will certainly be a static display of a pretty significant locomotive. So that's kind of a nice addition to the museum grounds for sure. Thank you, Barry, Deputy Mayor. All right, council, I have a recommendation. Be it resolved, Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive the county reports for information. Mover on this one, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Broderick. Any questions? I'll call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. Members of council, we're moving on. In our agenda, we are at ward reports. So council, we do have a few items through our ward reports, obviously in our agenda. So what I would like to do is I would like to go around the room as we always do to ask our councilors for their ward reports. What I will do for Councillor Leishman is you'll be the last one. You'll get to speak last, and then we'll come to you with your report. And then following that, we'll deal with the other ones. Is that okay for members of council? All right. So that means I'm going to look over at Councillor McKechnie and say, you're up first.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing really to report from Ward 2, but I do have a question for, I don't know if we have Amanda still available, and maybe if she's not here, maybe someone else on council can answer the question. So we received information or notice that the Kinsman Cider and Sausage Fest has been canceled, or is it postponed? And I'm just wondering, when is that going to be rescheduled? And is there a reason why, in light of the fact that we've now donated $5,500 to that cause? And I'm just wondering what's going on there. I think, you know, first of all, don't get me wrong, Kinsmen are doing great work. I got nothing wrong with the Kinsmen, or nothing against the Kinsmen. I just would like to know what's happening there. That's all.
That's a good request. Perhaps I can turn to the CAO. I'm not sure that Terry Vachon, I believe, is on vacation. So Mr. CAO, would you and or Amanda be able to get back to the counselor and explain anything or talk to him about this? Mr. CAO?
Yes, Amanda has left the meeting as well. She asked if she needed to stay and I said, no, it was okay, but I'll check back and get a hold of you right away with an answer to that question.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Actually, you know, maybe if you could just send a notice to all of council, I think we'd all like to maybe know when it's going to be rescheduled. I'm sure it will be. I'm sure they're planning on rescheduling it, but you know, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Right.
Nothing further? Okay,
That's
then
good.
I'll go to Councillor Broderick next. Hello there, John.
Thank you, Your Worship. June the 15th, attended the Clearview Chamber of Commerce meeting. On the 19th, actually attended the Borden Air Show as you did. It was quite the event. June 21st, attended the Clearview Library Board meeting. And on the 24th, attended the summer solstice event in Creemore. That was quite the event. It was very, very well attended, very well put together. Congratulations to the BIA. That was an excellent event. And I just wanted to remind everybody about the Canada Day festivities coming up on Friday. And I would encourage everyone to come out. I hope to see everyone in the the parade in Stainer. And the meetup for it is 9 a.m. at Station Park.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Councillor. Deputy Mayor, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think I kind of had my 2 cents worth there during my council report was quite lengthy, so
Okay,
I'll pass on.
you put in a full nickel's worth instead of 2 cents. Councillor Walker, I'll go to you next, way at the end there. How you doing, Bob?
Thank you, Your Worship. Not too bad, thank you. Just the June 14th, attended the Parks, Recreation and Culture Awards evening. What a great night. Wonderful entertainment, great speaker, and of course, wonderful recipients of awards. We have a very talented resource in Clearview Township in sports and culture areas, I'll tell you. And we're just touching on some of the talent that's out there. And we encourage those that have, for next year, that have ideas to submit through the application process, recipients for the various awards that are on our website. The other thing is up by the library, looking at development of the grounds and the preparation of our finishing off our landscaping, and boy, is it ever really looking nice. So just kudos to the organization and to the contractor that's doing that. And that's it, Your Worship.
All right, thank you very much, Bob. It was a great event to be at for the awards dinner. Councillor Lamers, how are you doing, John?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, just on June 14th, attended the Clearview Culture and Sports Hall of Fame dinner. It was a beautiful dinner, and it was a great evening, and congratulations to all the winners. We do have a multitude of talent out there.
Many more people to be nominated. Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Many more nominations to be received.
Yeah.
It was a good event. Thank you. Councillor Patterson, how are you doing, Tom?
Thank you. I have somewhat of an all environmental report today.
Oh, good.
Everyone knows that we had that deluge on 22nd, Wednesday, June the 22nd. We actually had quite the flood, unexpected, coming down from Fairgrounds Hill. We had 2 houses, the basements were flooded, 5 yards were flooded, but didn't penetrate the foundation. They have asked Public Works for some assistance in clearing the silt that has been left behind. And I know Dan Pro's folks, Joel and Todd, have been on the scene. It has sparked some discussion that Dan and I have had a preliminary discussion on, that there's an agreement between Clearview and the county for the connecting link, if you like, Louisa County Road 9 between Mary Street and Collingwood. Generally, that's our responsibility to maintain. And east from Jardine Crescent, Mary Street, to the box culvert, if you're familiar with it, the concrete one that goes under County Road 9 and passes into the Granger ditch. Granger being the original owner. And it's never lost its name. Was full. And so as a result, all the silt and spring fall from the trees, just about anything you can think of, even the rock cambion wall was broken and scattered and ended up in the ditch. It's quite a major ditch if you've seen it before. 2 culverts were almost totally full, which caused spillover. If you remember, Frank Awander, his son Doug, that spilled over, and then it proceeded down eastward along the County Road 9, and the 2 culverts, the corrugated one and the concrete one, both county responsibilities, were almost completely blocked, and that backed up everything back into Creemore. The actual water flowed in from onto the intersection of Mill Street and County Road 9, and about 3 homes to the south. Again, no flooding, but the lawns were penetrated. It all took 45 minutes. It came down and then it was gone. I think, and I am going to be bringing back a report asking that we consider this as the main drain coming down, that it be relooked at and included, if appropriate, in the Southeast Creemore drainage study that we've set aside from the master servicing plan. And the reason you heard that last week, the reason it's done is because we have the EIS done for the Southeast Creemore plan, and we have to do a new EA for the master plan. So I will be asking if that's possible. And it also ties in with the development in the former Alliance Homes Tribute property, if the work would be considered as designating it a municipal drain. So more on that later. I must add, though, that the residents were, when I was on site, were quite reasonable. I mean, the property was flooded. So I think it's important that we help them do a little bit of the cleanup, and that's the commitment I've gotten from Dan. He's going to look into it. I also had a request from a resident for an alternate, I'm calling it an alternate form of landscaping on the front lawn. So if you take a drive around, we have a bylaw. I've got some quizzical faces here. We have a bylaw that says if the grass goes more than a foot, you haven't maintained it properly, and you're cited, you're asked by our bylaw people to clean it up. And there was a complaint about her yard, and Joe, our bylaw officer, attended, and he thought it was interesting enough situation that he gave me a call. We talked about it. A lot of people are preferring to take their lawns out and to plant gardens, traditional gardens, hostas, etc. This woman would like to do something more like a meadow, an urban meadow, and you've seen that happen. There's also possibilities that you could have a xeriscape, where it's a low maintenance. So I thought it would be interesting to put this forward to our staff to see if there was interest, especially with our environmental concerns, watering lawns and preserving our water for other things. If we could look at our bylaw and see if there were some alternative ways of keeping your lawns front. And quite frankly, if you do walk around, you'll notice how many homes have gone to half or most of their lawn now not in lawns, not in grass. And so I think it's an interesting area. So I'll be bringing something back on that. And then we are getting, as the trees are all blooming and the hot weather's coming out, people are out. I'm getting calls regarding the condition of our urban forest, urban canopy. There's at least 15 trees that are candidates for removal. At least 5 of them are the young ones that we planted when we rebuilt Mill Street, and they're dead, not a leaf on them. So we do have an urban canopy renewal program and fund that we put forward. So I'll be asking for a report on that as well.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We'll look forward to reading that material. All right, moving on to Councillor Deneen. Hello, Phyllis, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say welcome to Michelle Hillman. She's our new booking agent. She's volunteered to be our booking agent for the Nottawa Memorial Hall. And I just wanted to thank Adam Thornton for his time on the board as well. We really, really appreciated his help with everything. I also wanted to make mention that as of Wednesday, our schools will be out for the summer.
No kidding.
So please take care, and I hope the kids enjoy themselves, and congratulations to all the graduating students. That's it for me.
Thank you very much, Councillor Deneen. Okay, Councillor Leishman, do you have any items you want to report on?
Yes, I do. Thank you. So as far as the community goes, I've been to pretty much every Stainer market and Creemore market that they can have, because we are addicted to good baking and fresh vegetables. So if you are too, you should come out and see. Excuse me. I went to the library last week with John, obviously. Summer solstice on Friday. What a lot of fun. That was great. We could hardly walk down the street. We saw so many people we knew, and we chatted, of course. Well, yeah, forever. I don't even think we got food until like 9:30. We were so busy. It was wonderful. And I also went to the 20th anniversary on Station on the Green with our worship. And it was really lovely because I remember being there when they broke ground for that. And I was quite excited about it. And the best part was I got to see an old friend, Paul Ruppel, who I haven't seen for years. And he's a dear friend. So let's see. Oh, and I have the honor of bringing congratulations to the students of Stainer Collegiate tomorrow, which is something I'm really looking forward to because Stainer Collegiate is very near and dear to my heart. So the next one would be the establishment of Affordable Housing Committee.
How about you let me speak first?
Okay,
Because
good.
I've got
Because
two
I'd
items
like
too
you to
that
do
I.
that. Yes,
thank you
please.
very
Thank
much.
you. I didn't want to do that.
Oh, no,
Okay.
no, please. You can have the chair if you need it.
I don't want the chair.
Okay, good.
All yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Counselor. I just want to mention, I also attended the Borden Air Show. Very impressed with our armed forces and what a great day. It was a well-organized event. I have to say it was a little frustrating trying to get out of the event, sitting in the car for an hour and a half, traveling 75 feet, was a frustrating moment, but that's okay. We got to still chat with people and meet people in the parking lot, so to speak. The summer solstice event was a great little event on Friday night. I really enjoyed that. I ran into Councillor Broderick. We had a good walk up and down the street and ran into some people that I hadn't seen in a long time. So it was really nice. Sorry I missed you, Councillor Leishman. I didn't know you were there, but we had a really nice time there. So it was really good. And then I did attend the Station on the Green 20th anniversary. I brought greetings on your behalf as members of council. And I tell you what, it was quite encouraging to see the number of people that really celebrate volunteerism in our community. And that was the key thing that I picked up out of that. Some really great examples of volunteers working together. And the last thing I do want to mention is congratulations to all the graduates, both the elementary and secondary schools, both the public board and the separate board are having graduation ceremonies. Some of them are actually tonight for grade 8 students. And regretfully, we're not able to attend tomorrow, right after our lengthy council meeting, Deputy Mayor. I'll be attending Collingwood Collegiate Institute, and then I'll be going over to our Lady of the Lake separate school board. And I'm very grateful that Councillor Leishman has been able to cover the duties at Stainer Collegiate. So good job. Happy that you're able to do that. And I wish them all the best. That is about it I have at this time, other than to mention that I would hope that we are able to continue to have our public participation here, as well as to have members of the public join us here at this council chambers. It is a public space, in my opinion. I'm really happy that people are taking advantage of that and coming out to see us. And so at this time, I'll go right back to Councillor Leishman as you have a report. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak, and then I'll read the report or read the recommendation. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. I won't read it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We did have a wonderful presentation by Marg last council. We've been working together, since the year before in April we started. So it was a long year. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it. And I learned an awful lot. I think it's all here. My only comment is that we wait for county to do something. And quite frankly, what I've observed is if we don't do something, county won't help us. So we have to put our boots to the ground first, and I think they'll follow. So I would suggest that we not take any money out of that account again, the next, or out of that reserve at the next budget meeting, although I won't be here probably if we have it before I leave or after I leave. But I think that money has to stay in and we have to build it up, or we won't get anywhere with affordable housing. So that's my only comments.
Okay.
You've read everything else that I've got here.
All right. So what I'll do then is I'll read the resolution and I'll consider you the mover of this resolution, Councillor. Correct? All right. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive report COU 004-2022, the establishment of an affordable housing committee dated June 27, 2022. Item 2, direct staff to bring back a report at the beginning of the new term of council 2022 to 2026 before the end of March 23 to discuss establishing a new affordable housing committee as a committee of council. Moved by Leishman, seconded by the deputy mayor. Members of council, you got any questions about the report or the ask of our staff? Yes, hello there, Councillor McKechnie.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Leishman. So March 2023 for the a report from staff, and that's on to establish or to discuss establishing a new affordable housing committee. So let's say they bring it back in March, well, then it's got to come to council and have a discussion. We're not looking at a committee until maybe next year at this time before it gets formulated. Just wondering, can we move that up? Can we do that any quicker? Or why did you choose that date? Is it because staff are going to be busy with the election coming up, or?
No, that was recommended to me. That
Okay.
March would be probably the time that staff could get it together because we have so many new things happening in the new term. So
Okay.
yes, it's going to take a while. Yes, I would love to have had it in January. And I think I'm giving staff enough time, but you never know what's going to happen in the new council. So I thought I should give them time to digest it as well.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. I just thought that that was, quite an extended
It
period of
is,
time.
and
But
yes.
that's okay. Fair enough.
No.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it needs to be done.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right. Anything further, Councillor McKechnie? Okay. Anybody else with any other members? Any questions? Right. Seeing none, Councillor Leishman, I'll give you one comment. It's very timely. Just today on CBC News World, I was watching our Premier and Mayor John Tory answer many questions about affordable housing. And I have to say, Mayor Tory made a very good statement, I believe, and that is he clarified clearly that while the city of Toronto does have a huge housing crisis, the city of Toronto and municipalities across Ontario do not have the tools to actually work it and to solve this problem, and desperately need to work with upper tiers, as in the provincial government and the federal government. And he made it quite clear. And with the Premier standing right beside him, I thought it was very poignant at that moment. So it was a good little hint that there is certainly going to be a lot of talk about affordable housing across the province, and if not the federal government as well. So thank you for bringing this forward. I look forward to seeing that staff will be prepared to prepare a report that council in the future can consider. That's my comment. I've got a mover and seconder on the motion. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor, for bringing that forward. Council, we're going to move to item 11.3. This is in regards to speed reductions on Fairgrounds Road, something that has been certainly talked about at many times at many council meetings. So I want to be clear that what we have here in front of us is information regarding the legal review that council asked for, information of the original recommendation. And because this is a motion to reconsider, we're now at that point that we're now reconsidering the motion that's already been reconsidered. I would interpret this that I'm looking for a new mover and seconder. Madam Clerk, do you concur? Just looking for a mover?
Through your worship, that's correct.
Okay, so we're looking for a mover and seconder when I read this recommendation. But again, before I do, just to be clear, this is, we're treating this as though we're starting our debate. Everybody understood? We've had lots of points talked about, but I'm just thinking just for clarity, we're starting our debate on this issue again. Okay. Members of council, I'll read the recommendation. Be it resolved, the council of the township of Clearview hereby one, approve reducing the speed limit on Fairgrounds Road from 80 kilometers per hour to 60 kilometers per hour from County Road 9 to County Road 91, and from 3334 Side Road to the town limits of Beechwood Road to address vertical alignment and cross-section constraints for multimodal travel by directing staff to present the speed reduction bylaw at the next council meeting. And item 2, that the expenditure in the amount of $18,551.64 to reduce the speed on the roads be funded through the Public Works capital budget for traffic control devices. Mover and seconder. Mover on this motion, please. Looking for a mover? Mr. McKechnie, seconder. Mr. Lamers, thank you very much. Council, you've heard the motion. Is there any questions or comments about the motion? Mr. Patterson, I see you first, looking around the table for other hands. Mr. McKechnie. Thank you. And Mr. Walker. Thank you. Okay, we'll carry on from there. Go ahead, Tom.
So as we're saying, essentially, it's a repeat of the March 7th meeting in general. And I thought it was very informative that the chair yourself allowed us to have a bit of a discussion beforehand, since we have multiple motions to consider. And as it was said during the meeting, just for refresh for the public, many of these have the same points, different locations, but the same points. They were done by the same engineer and the same staff report. All have the same design constraints, and as it's proposed, they all have the same solution. So I think it's best when you try to do it in a serial way. For example, if it was a matter of money, you can only afford 2 out of the 3. It would change the mind. If the first one is, you don't agree with the priority, the first one, you would rather spend it on the second. So it's good for council to have a round of discussions just to see where we are. And I thought it worked well then, and I'd ask you if we could do that again this time. Okay, so
That's what we're doing. We're having a discussion, and I'm going to let everybody, of course, speak if they wish to speak.
So I'd like, if I may,
concludes, we'll call the motion.
Sorry, may I speak?
Go right ahead.
Sorry. Okay. So I would start off by just asking a general question. And it can be by question to the mover, or it could be anyone in council. What is it that we think we're actually reconsidering tonight? And it's not a criticism of not knowing. This is multifaceted. So where's our minds today? What's it on? I'll give you an example. At the March 7th meeting, I asked the same question. And I asked the open question, does anyone have an issue with the fact that staff has identified a high risk, their terms, design constraint? Design constraint meaning they're constrained from doing various things with the road, in this case, posting the speed at 80. Thus, one of the solutions, you either build out the road so you can post it at 80, or you, as this proposal says, try another alternative. In this case, we considered speed. No one at the time, stand corrected, indicate there was an issue with that. The dispute is not that there is a design constraint. The dispute was in March 7th, or at least the question that we talked about was there money to do it? So so my question would be, is it money that we're concerned about spending? It is a reconsideration motion. So is it the actual design constraint? Does anyone on council feel that staff has identified a design constraint that they don't agree with? So what's the basis for the reconsideration?
If I may, Councillor, we've already had the reconsideration. We're now at the motion. So if I recall correctly, the discussion at the reconsideration brought it forward to this same discussion, and then it was deferred to staff for legal review, and that information has now been obtained. We received it last meeting. So now we're at the point where we're discussing the resolution as presented, given all the evidence that we have in front of us. Council, just looking at you, is that understood? I mean, we have received the legal information that was asked, right? Okay. Tom, go ahead.
My context is, yes, we did agree to reconsider. I'm just saying, why are we? Normally we'd get a staff report and we'd say for the following reasons, this is the action we'd like council to approve or amend. In this case, there's a multifaceted here. I'll ask the question then, open question. Does anyone think that the design constraints identified in the engineering study and the staff reports that we've previously approved, does anyone think they are not design constraints?
Sorry, Your Worship,
Yes,
I
right
didn't hear his question. Can you repeat that, Tom?
Yeah, Tom, just bring that microphone right up.
Does anyone on council feel that the design constraints identified by the engineer and the staff recommendations do not pose a risk to safety on the road. They are not design constraints. There has been opinions stated by the public that the roads are safe. We are reconsidering. We approved this already. There must be some reason why we're reconsidering.
Council has an individual elected officials are independent legislators and have the ability to make their minds up without having to explain their decisions, I suppose. I think that's a correct term. Boy, I'm no legal expert, but it's something to that effect that you can, as an elected official, you can make a decision and not have to give reasons for your decision. That is true.
Okay.
I saw a card from Mr. McKechnie, if I can interrupt you, Tom. What was that, Doug?
Well, Councillor Patterson asked a question. I was just going to give my response to the question. So yes, we spent 2 years on this, and initially the engineers said that these roads should be at 80, and then we had workshops and we had discussions, and we brought more information to their attention, and then they said that Fairgrounds Road should be 60. In the meantime, then we had some opposition. And then we've had legal and insurance opinions. And basically the legal and insurance opinions says that as long as we're acting reasonably and in good faith, we have the authority as council to set whatever speed limit we deem necessary. I think from my perspective, it's evident that a change has to be made. I discussed this with Tom, that I'm not comfortable having Fairgrounds Road at 60 kilometers per hour. I think that 70 would be a much more reasonable speed limit. I think it satisfies everyone. And as a matter of fact, I mentioned to the clerk that I would like to put that amendment forward tonight when it's appropriate. So to answer Councillor Patterson's question, as a council, I think that we have the authority to set whatever speed limit that we deem necessary on these roads tonight, and as long as we're acting in good faith. And so I don't think that we have to be bound by the engineer's report. We weren't bound by the engineer's report when it came to Hogtown Road or Hogback Road? Hogtown Road, I guess that's in Toronto or whatever. Anyway, we didn't, and also the four-way stop at Singhampton. So we have the authority to set the speed limit as we see fit. So anyway, that's
I just want to,
my opinion.
I'll interrupt you. The deputy mayor is right. Councillor Walker is coming up next, but I had gone to Mr. McKechnie because the Councillor Patterson had asked the question of all members of council, and I saw him flash his card, so that's why I acknowledged him. That wasn't your turn in my list, Councillor. You'll get to your turn in a minute.
No, I was just answering his question.
I know that. That's where I interpreted that. So, Tom, does anybody else want to help Tom or answer Tom's question? All right. So, Mr. McKechnie, you're next on my list.
Okay, I would like to make an amendment to the motion if possible. And the amendment that I would like to make is that we change the speed limit to reach 70 kilometers per hour instead of 60 kilometers per hour from County Road 9 to County Road 91, and from the 33-34 side road to the town limits and Beechwood Drive. So basically where it says 60 kilometers per hour, we change it to 70 kilometers per hour. And that's the motion, that's the amendment I would like to make.
All right, so there's been an amendment made. Is there a seconder on the motion? Seeing no seconder, Councillor. Thank you. So we'll park that as a good thought. Appreciate that. Members of council, I'm now going to recognize Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
I'm going to sound like the broken record again. I'm not sure how we feel we can reduce the speed when we don't control the poor driving habits of the drivers. We don't control the type of enforcement. I'm not sure how we feel by reducing the speed, we are going to solve the issue of speeding on those two roads. Those that are following the speed limits now are those that will follow the 60. And that's very few people that are following the speed limit now. Once you get the lowered speed, then those again that are abiding by the law will follow it, and those the rest that are breaking it will continue to break the speed limit on those roads. I think by reducing the speed, we are possibly causing more issues with the sight lines and the hills. If somebody coming over, if somebody's a little slower. I sound like a broken record because I've been at this the last couple of years, kept saying about, I just don't see how speed reduction is going to solve an issue when we don't control 2/3 of the equation. We don't control the habits and we don't control enforcement. And the records for for fairgrounds and for 6th from the OPP stats are not high as far as incidents are concerned. Concession 10 is totally different. So I just make those comments. I'm just not seeing where speed reduction will give the answers that those residents are looking for.
All right, Deputy Mayor is next. Tom, I'll recognize you after the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'd like to say, yes, there's been a lot of time, I have read so many reports on this issue. It's kind of mind-boggling, but after reading all the reports, so first of all, we did pass this motion originally, and I supported that motion originally. Thought, okay, we made common sense. But then we heard huge kickback from the business community, that they felt this wasn't necessary. It's going to impede their business. It's going to cost them money. And it wasn't like a little bit of kickback. It was huge kickback. So in answer to Councillor Patterson's question, why are we reconsidering it? I think a lot of what we're reconsidering is because of the huge kickback from a greater part of the community was having a louder voice, which unfortunately they should have had that louder voice before we passed the motion, but they didn't. But this is politics and this is what happens. I am not going to support this motion. And the reason why I'm not going to support the motion, because I agree with Councillor Walker that reducing the speed limits is not the answer. First of all, these are rural roads. These are not roads that are within our settlement areas. These are rural roads set at 80 kilometers at reasonable speed. When we reviewed the legal and the insurance documents and that, one of the things, and also the traffic study, it indicated that reducing speeds will not change, the effects or the number of accidents or anything. That it would have very little effect. Our problem is plain and simple enforcement. We have drivers out there who are recklessly doing 10, 15, 20, 30 kilometers over the limit on our roads. It's happening every day. And I will go up one of these roads doing 80, 85, and I'll see somebody passing me at 120. It's just, this council cannot be made responsible for the bad drivers. We have to do something about it, yes. But like Robert Walker said, we don't control those drivers. Who does? The police. What do we need to do? Enforcement. How do we do that? We need to put money into a budget. I'm going to encourage the next council to put in at least $500,000 into the budget to stop this craziness of all the speeding around here. We need to put money into paying the OPP for much more enforcement and make this happen. And people are going to learn. Don't speed in Clearview because you're going to get caught and you're going to get a ticket. And once people learn that, they'll settle down. But changing speed limits is not the answer. And and as a result, I cannot support this motion as it stands. I think the speed limits are reasonable. I think our business communities have the right to, you know, have reasonable speeds within the rural roads. Again, if these were in settlement areas, it'd be a different story, but it's not. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I recognize Tom. Is there anybody else? And Councillor Lamers. Thank you, John. Go ahead.
If I may, I would like to, as part of my comment, just read something I received today from a resident. This is an excerpt from a letter. As is the beauty of any democratic society, I was encouraged to voice my concerns and they were heard. For that, I am grateful. That said, as strong as my opinions were and as much support as I had from the others on Fairgrounds Road, they remained an opinion that needed to be thoroughly considered, researched, and studied before any action could be taken. I was told that the decisions could not be made by opinions alone, that decisions had to be made on objective expert studies and analysis. And so I waited. The comprehensive traffic report was produced and its conclusions are known to this group, referring to us. Fairgrounds Road is not safe in its current condition or state for the volumes and the speeds of travelers. Change is needed. And so I leave this in your hands to decide what is the right course of action. Will you be swayed by more opinions or implement the recommendations that will create a safer road for all our travelers? This is a sentiment that is heard in different terms. I read that. I thank you for allowing me to do that because I thought it summed up not somebody sitting on council, not staff, not an OPP officer, somebody who lives on the street, in this case, Fairgrounds Road. She understood the significance of the fact that you can't just ask for a street sign. You can't just ask for an upgraded intersection on Hogback Road and Concession 2. You can't just ask for speed reduction on the road because you think it's the right thing to do. And I would say, she didn't say that, I'm saying this, and you can't just say, no, we don't want it, and expect your politicians to move to a snap of your fingers. I understand the temptation. It's engendered in our responsibility as a council. It's almost in our nature as representatives of the public to respond to concerns, complaints, pressure from the public. But that should never interfere with the work that we actually direct our staff to do. In this case, we did not ask our staff to reduce. There was an attempt to let's do a trial. Let's do a pilot on Fairgrounds Road. Let's lower the speed. No, what we said, I brought it forward, you approved it, that we should do a comprehensive traffic management study to determine where we should put our priorities, because we knew at that time as a council that our roads could be safer. Can we do them all? No. We answered the question of the engineer. Tell me how many you want me to look at. You in the public know where the complaints are. You drive these roads. We gave them 48 sections. They came back with a recommendation for 3 roads this year. Of the 500 and some odd kilometers of road, we're looking at, you know the number, under 20 probably. Maybe it's under 30. I don't understand with all the emphasis that we put onto the fact that we know people are speeding. We know we need more enforcement. We know people are going to speed 15, 20, or 30 over. How we can sit here as a body and be accountable and responsible and act in good faith and reasonably and do nothing because we think the roads are okay. What gives us the authority? I don't agree with the notion that as a council, we can do what's fit. Sure, we can take the legislative responsibility and abuse it. We can make a decision that we don't know if it's the correct one or not. That's why we sought the advice of our staff. And he sought the advice of traffic engineers and consultants to look at the road for 2 years. Let's not forget on the decision that we make tonight, that all we're talking about is 3 sections of road. We approved recommendation 4 at October 15th, 2021, which said that we have a active program for 2023, and we have a rural roads policy that we want to work on, all part of the framework we put in place when the traffic assessment study came back from RJ Burnside's and was enshrined in staff recommendations that we approved, All right. And if you're saying no to the speed reductions, and if you're saying, as you said earlier, that no one on this council is saying those aren't design constraints. If that's what you're saying, then are you talking about alternatives? If not speed reduction, what are we going to do to address the design constraints that we've acknowledged? And how do we say to the public, we're being responsible and the act we did was in good faith? Doing nothing is not good faith. It's bad judgment.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lamers, John?
Thank you, Worship. Yes. Dan brought a good report to council regarding his budget for science and everything, but he had nothing in there for enforcement. And without law enforcement, we may be creating more of a problem than we need. But we need to do something, but without the enforcement, we're going to run into more problems. We have to start budgeting with enforcement and get enforcement out there to protect our citizens and our drivers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Looking around the table for any other comments. See McKechnie again. I'm just looking, is there anybody else? Go ahead, Mr. McKechnie.
So I hear everyone saying, acknowledging that there is a problem, but nobody seems to want to do anything about it. And that's why I put forward my amendment, which couldn't get a seconder on, but 70 kilometers per hour. 70 kilometers per hour. I'm not in agreement with going down to 60, but I thought 70 kilometers per hour satisfies the residents, and it means less than 1 minute additional travel for people driving on that road. About 48 seconds is what it means. And it tells the traveling public, it tells the motorist when he sees a sign, the speed limit sign saying 70 kilometers per hour, he then knows, hey, this is not a typical road, and maybe I better be aware. I better be cautious here. You know, he's still going to probably do 80, 85. With it being at 80 kilometers per hour, he'd probably do 85, 90. But, you know, so anyway, I'm disappointed that my 70 kilometer per hour amendment didn't even get a seconder. But I'm not comfortable having it go down to 60. I think that's too much. And but anyway, I'm disappointed in council on this. So thank you very much.
All right, we can keep going back and forth here. I see Tom has indicated he wants to speak again. If you don't mind, I'd like to just ask, is there any other members of council who haven't spoke? The Deputy Mayor has another, but I'll just, and Councilor Deneen. Thank you. Tom, go ahead. Put your microphone on there, sir.
I'll give way to someone else who wants to speak before me. If
Deputy Mayor?
Well, he's spoken.
I'm happy to speak, but if it's up to you, Tom, you can go
Okay,
first.
I'll go forward. I just wanted to address the comment made by the Deputy Mayor, so it's timely on concession 10. One of the things we wanted to do in the comprehensive traffic management study was to look at our network of roads as a network. Okay, and we said, well, we want to pick out some of the worst ones for sure, But I don't think there was ever an intent never to treat them as completely separate entities. And the reason I say that is because as soon as our staff, in building a new section of concession 10, came back to us and said the financial constraints in spending some odd $4 million on rebuilding a section of concession 10, as much as we spent, we could not build that road to a design speed that would allow us to post an 80. The best we could do without acquiring more land, for example, spending a lot more money, was to post a design, to determine that a design speed would be 70 and therefore the posted speed would be 60. So let's be sure what we're saying tonight. When we're saying we're not comfortable with going down to 60, I'm hearing that except we won't do that, we're going to go to 60 on 10. And the reason we're saying that is, I think, the only difference I can see is because there's not as much public opposition to it, or because it's a new road. Okay? Neither one of those exclude the fact that we should still support the staff. I've always seen concession 10 as an empirical example of exactly what we should do on our existing roads when we're faced with the same design constraints. And in some cases, some of our roads are more severe than concession 10. Concession 10, we went to 60, I think largely from 124 for consistency as well, which is another good principle that our staff recommended we follow. So how is it that we can satisfy ourselves that we're being responsible and acting in good faith, keeping concession 10 at a 60, if that's what we do, but saying we don't need to do that on Fairgrounds Road, or going down 10 is good enough? This is what I'm trying to find. What the whole purpose of this study was to have a longer term, multi-year, comprehensive framework to design out some of the safety issues on our roads. For someone to say, why is everybody so excited about safety on the roads? They've been like this for years. Because they've been like this for years. And now we have some of the wherewithal. And it seems to me we were going to raise the priority of this as in a responsibility to attend to some of those deficiencies. Nobody can tell me, and you need to just slow down maybe and walk out down the street, that our shoulders on the road are just spot on. The other day I said to Dan, it goes to show you what he asked me, what do you think of the white lines and the yellow line? Okay. I don't know who said it, but we both sort of came to the same thoughts. The white lines on some of the sides of the roads are wider than a shoulder. Those are design constraints. Those are the rules, the guides, the MTO passes down to our people, who then respond to our direction and give us recommendations. And here we say, well, we can do nothing. But I think the roads are already set at responsible speeds. How can we make these? How can we make these decisions and remind ourselves that we're supposed to be accountable for these decisions? In the same way, by the way, as we're accountable for the decisions we make on our water supply. We don't turn the taps, we don't drill the wells. We're not the experts, BOD levels and everything else. But we are responsible to make sure that our staff does the right job based on the statutes they're guided. It's no different here. You can't just erase the blackboard and say, we can do anything we want because we're a council. You really can't. You can, but you're not being responsible.
Councilor Janine. Deputy Mayor. You guys are being very polite and handing off to each other. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So I've sat here and listened to these conversations. First, and in all due respect, concession 10 is not the subject we're talking about here. So I think that's on we got a bylaw to pass, and I think we're all in favor of what was happening with concession 10. So
You asked for it to be reconsidered at the last meeting.
no, concession 10 is on for a bylaw tonight, I believe. This is not part of this discussion. Am I correct, Your Worship?
Yeah, Mr. Patterson, that's true. Concession 10 bylaw is on the agenda tonight. And generally, bylaws are not debatable. If there's any questions of clarity, yes, but not debate. We're not discussing 10. I just read the motion of which I have a mover and seconder in regards to Fairgrounds Road. That's where we are.
So anyways, if I may proceed,
Please.
The discussion is about this particular motion that's on the floor. So I've heard from Councillor Patterson, I've heard from Councillor McKechnie, and I've heard like 3 or 4 times, I'm disappointed nothing's being done. We can't do nothing. I made a pretty strong recommendation of what has to be done. I'm prepared to put forth a motion that this council supports a report from our staff to come back with a report on the costing of what it will cost to triple our police enforcement over the next year and have it to be considered by the new council. There's a motion, there's some action, there's something being done. If I would be allowed to put forth that motion now, Your Worship, I would put forth that motion, ask for a seconder, and let's make something happen. Thank you.
All right. I didn't expect that, and that's awesome. Madam Clerk, I believe there's a motion from the Deputy Mayor, which is in the middle of all this. So would you record that? And we'll continue to have that discussion on that in a moment, if I may. I would like to defer to the Councillor Deneen, who has her card up. And is there anybody else? Going, Mr. K. Go ahead, Phyllis. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. We could still do traffic calming measures like the speed reduction signs, the flashing lights that come. They're on the 10th concession on the County Road 32, and you do slow down for them. You do that. That could be a temporary measure at this point on fairgrounds. And I've heard different things, for all due respect to Councillor Patterson and Councillor McKechnie. I've heard that people that we got the feedback from, the negative feedback from, didn't live on the roads or in our township on the affected roads, or that 2 different opinions within a household. We had feedback from the residents on fairgrounds, and I did rudimental math. I went on Google Maps. I checked each driveway off, the amount of driveways that were there. I multiplied it by 2, and I did my own math with the feedback we got from the residents. And I found it to be a majority. And when I asked for the affirmation for the speed reductions, I never got any feedback from that for my own personal use. Not enough to make me change my decision at this time. And that's my opinion on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. All right. Seeing nothing further, I'll go back to the clerk. I believe there is a motion from the Deputy Mayor. So I look for a seconder. If you have the information you need.
Through Your Worship, just a quick question, if you don't mind, through Your Worship to Deputy Mayor. As per your motion, would it be feasible to request the staff to reach out to the OPP or to the local police enforcement to determine what it would take to actually increase the enforcement in those areas? And report back to council?
If I may, I mean, to me, they have to report. That would be automatic. They would have to contact the OPP. But if we need to include that in the motion,
what it would take to, okay.
So they would. I didn't think it was necessary to put that in the motion, but I'm quite happy to have that included in the motion that they're going to consult with the OPP because they're the ones who are going to provide the costing.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. And then we can come back with, what it would take to actually.
Yeah, what the actual cost is, well, how many hours they can give us for the cost and all that type of thing.
All right. So
Okay.
do you have a motion, Madam Clerk?
Okay, perfect. Be it resolved that staff consult with the local OPP to determine what the cost would be associated with increasing the police enforcement over Fairgrounds Road and Fairgrounds Road at this point.
I'm not sure I want to refine it that, I would say within our township.
In the
And
township
within
of
the
Clearview.
township.
Yeah, within the township of Clearview. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any questions? I'll ask for a seconder on the motion. Ms. Deneen, thank you. Councillor Deneen. Any questions on that item? Yes, go ahead. Mr. I got McKechnie. Go ahead, Doug.
Thank you, Your Worship. I understand what you're doing there, Barry. The problem is, in June of last year, this council approved that these roads would be redesigned to accommodate multimodal traffic. And that's going to cost millions of dollars, but this council approved it. That's our long range. That's our long range goal. And when we say long range, we're only looking 3 to 5 years, and that's in the report from June of 2021. 3 to 5 years from now, we're going to redesign these roads, and it's going to cost us millions. And what you're doing now is you're throwing a bunch more money towards the OPP in order to do a short-term fix. But we're still paying millions of dollars to have these roads redesigned in 3 to 5 years. As I said before, I don't agree with going down to 60, but I was hoping that 70 would mean that we would not have to redesign the roads at the cost to the taxpayer of millions of dollars. And I don't see how, throwing more money at the OPP in order for enforcement is going to change that. We're still looking at redesigning the roads, and it's still going to cost the taxpayer a lot of money. So anyway, I understand what you're saying, but I think it's throwing good money after bad. So thank you.
Councillor McKechnie, if I may, that motion was about the fact that we would be designing it, not actually building it. So yes, there will be money spent on design and engineering studies and how much it would cost, and what areas need to be desperately amended or changed or whatever. It wasn't about actually doing the work, because contracted work it can change in value quite quickly. So the motion was to investigate what this work would look like and design what it would look like. That's the way I recall it. Do you recall it differently?
The motion was, or the recommendation was, that we redesign the roads. I mean, what's the use of redesigning them if you're not going to act on it?
We've designed buildings and never built them here in Clearview Township. So I'm just saying.
Maybe that's your problem.
Perhaps. Okay, Tom was next, and then Councillor Deneen. Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, just a request for clarification on the motion. I heard the deputy mayor said that I'm prepared to put a motion out that will triple the cost of, I think it was enforcement. But I didn't hear those words in the
Madam Clerk, could you read?
motion. Could you read that again? Maybe I just missed it.
Through Your Worship, no problem. Be it resolved that staff be directed to consult with the OPP to determine the costs associated with increasing police speed enforcement within the township and report back to council.
Yeah, okay, I didn't hear the word triple again. Did I hear, is there a question of how much would it cost?
Yeah, so that's something I think staff has to work out with talking to the
Excuse
OPP.
me. So I have a question based on that confirmation. So can I ask the staff to give us a ballpark figure for the amount of assistance, support, patrolling we'd need from the OPP? OPPs cost us what, $1.5 million a year, but that's fully
A little
loaded.
less than that, but it's
Fully loaded, everything in. All right. How much would it cost us? Okay, do we think we need a full-time OPP officer? You got to catch them to find them. Okay, we
You're
got
exactly
500
right.
kilometers of road. So can I ask the CAO or Dan?
Mr.
Are we talking
CAO.
tens of thousands or hundreds
Mr.
of
Patterson,
thousands?
let me help you out here. Mr. CAO, when you and I attend the CPAC meetings, we certainly hear the challenges that the OPP detachment has in providing the safety and security of our communities, the three of them being Springwater Township, Wasaga Beach, and Clearview. And certainly we have heard about the challenges they're having with staffing levels, much like any other business. So the recommendation that's been put forward here and the discussion is about whether we could increase that. Is that something that you can button up and create a report that would give us the indication about what type of cost it may be to increase enforcement in the Township of Clearview?
So thank you, Your Worship. And so you'd be asking the OPP to increase their service level standard on a specific issue. So you want certain roads patrolled, and they could identify what that would cost depending on the feedback that we gave them. And in this new format for committees, they have created an opportunity if we wanted to augment certain services, we could, and they would describe how we could respond to that. So there is a process in place that I think that they could follow, and we could find out what that is and bring that report back.
Yes.
If I may, is that we've always talked about having to have enforcement. In fact, every time we talk about this, we talk about we better sit down with the OPP and come up with the enforcement. So that's, it's not a novel idea. It's a good idea to get the cost. Maybe we'll implement it. The design constraint is still there. The OPP is not helping us with that. The risk identified by our staff is still there.
Councillor Deneen?
I just wanted to lighten it up a little bit if I could. I know one place that I've had a speeding ticket at. I slow down at that spot every time and I make sure that I am going the speed limit I'm supposed to be going. And once they get the idea that they can't speed through that area, that there could be somebody there, it will be a deterrent.
Thank you. Enforcement certainly is the option. All right, Madam Clerk.
Sorry, through your worship, just to note, we still have that main motion that's on the.
I know, but I'm asking, we're still at the motion that the deputy mayor has brought forward.
So you have a mover and seconder? You have
Yes.
Deputy and Councillor Deneen?
That's correct. Okay, nothing further on this discussion on the item of the OPP ask through the CAO's office. I'll call the motion. Those in favor? All right, those opposed? Thank you. That does carry. Mr. CAO, the task has been assigned. How's that? Members, we're still on our original motion, and we pretty well wrapped up debate on this, I believe. Is there anything further on the original motion? All right. Council, I'd like to take the opportunity to say a few words, and then I'll be calling the motion. One of them is that the issue is very clear. This, as Councillor Walker pointed out, it is about behavior of drivers. And I must tell you, as the mayor, I have had many phone calls, conversations with people who are very concerned about behavior of drivers in our community. And I always empathize with them because I personally see it as well. I'm also a driver, and I have great concern that there is a level of carelessness that's been sort of coming around our community when it comes to driving and driving behavior. And so it's certainly something that we have in our community, but the actual active enforcement is outside of our abilities through the staff that we hire, through our responsibilities as council. It is an OPP or MTO issue. And in fact, if you checked, the Ministry of Fisheries and Oceans can actually pull you over to a conservation officer. But nevertheless, there's no way that we at council or in our staff can control or stop someone from speeding or pull them over for that matter. So therein lies the problem, as we are the level of government that is closest to the public, who reach out to us in good faith and they ask us for some help. And so I'm trying to balance what I can do as the mayor and as a member of this council table to help support that. And I do believe that we need to do a better job of communicating to the drivers that they need to slow down. I've mentioned this in previous debates, and because we're starting this debate again, I'll mention it again. We have the tools and the staff have the ability to place signage on our roads to create traffic calming right now. Our road authority has every authority to do that. There's a full traffic handbook for signage that's appropriate for caution, slow, wet corners, blind intersections, all types of indicators that tell people slow down, right down to putting up permanent delineators on intersections and so on to create some awareness for drivers. Yes, it can be kind of complicated, and yes, it can be a messy road because you'll have lots of signs everywhere. Maybe that's not what we want in our beautiful Clearview Township, but there are tools available to our staff, and I would ask our staff in the roads department to take that into consideration, that they do have the ability to make some changes. And I want to compliment the staff who have made a change just this season. How pleased I was to see the white lines appear on the sides of the road. You know, a couple of years ago, we had a budget discussion and we put the budget money in to create the yellow center line down our roads, north-south roads. And since we've been talking about budget for the next term of council, that'll be something that I'd like to see bring up, is some of our east-west roads may need some yellow lines on them as well. But nevertheless, I was very pleased to see the staff take the initiative to put the white lines on the roads. And that, I believe, is also contributing to traffic calming. And in fact, more painting on the road may in fact be very, very helpful. They could paint the word slow or something right on the road. You can do a lot of things. So the point is that they have the tools to do it, and I would encourage them to consider that. I also know that our road authority and public works staff are very engaged in this issue, and they hear about it a lot themselves, as I do as the mayor. I get phone calls about it. They do too. So that being said, I think that there is a positive outlook for us to do more traffic calming. I also want to speak about back to the OPP, and that is that the OPP are very much engaged in knowing that this Huronia West detachment serves all three of our municipalities. And they do get an awful lot of attention into Wasaga Beach, as Wasaga Beach does have a great deal of enforcement issues in their own right, perhaps different than the ones that we have. But nevertheless, our detachment commander is very much engaged with this. She communicates regularly with myself, and I know that her staff, staff sergeants and road sergeants and so on, they do use some of the data that's available through our public works department radar signs to help them gather data and information. And so we are building a better relationship with our OPP detachment. And because of that, I think we're seeing better service today. Just this weekend, there was reported 4 different arrests for impaired driving across our community, which is another completely horrific crime that happens. And thankfully, our officers were there to apprehend them and bring that to a stop. But as you know, we cannot simply afford to put an officer on every corner on every road. And so it's just logistically not possible. I mentioned Mayor Tory earlier. Can you imagine the number of police officers the city of Toronto has compared to us? So it's just impossible. Nevertheless, this has been a good debate. I know we've had a long talk about this. You know, there's some very good input coming from the public on both sides of this issue. And I think that respectfully, council needs to hear from all sides. We also have to be reasonable with what we can and cannot do. And I think that the design constraints, as Tom has pointed out, is a very important aspect, but it is not the only thing that makes our roads safe or unsafe. I think that the behavior of the people on the road is the key. And I think that we are in a position now where we should be moving ahead with these resolutions and canceling any plans to make any speed reduction changes at this time. And I would suggest that we're going to, I would ask council to consider that, and we'll move forward, and we'll look at this through the eyes and through the lens of the traffic calming policy, the tools that are available, and our relationship with enforcement. Those are my comments, and so I'd like to ask for council to consider. We've got a mover and seconder. Tom, you've raised your hand again. Are we starting the debate again, Tom?
As we move here, we want to be mindful of the fact that there was a fourth recommendation that is not under reconsideration.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
When we approved this suite of recommendations, there was also a fourth one, which was the 2023 program, the rural program. It was all based on the premise of the comprehensive traffic study and the assessment.
Yep.
And Dan Perot basically outlined moving forward, this wasn't the only year that we were going to study our roads. We have many other roads, and there's more roads within the 48. So I understand that this council feels that we can do anything we would like. So I asked this question with a little bit of advisement, but this kind of puts a tilt on that recommendation as we go out and do the data collection next year, and we look at where we think speed reductions might be required because we have the same financial constraints as we do now in using. Are we expecting the staff to come back with that, or are we prepared to say to them, these are things that we will consider from the traffic engineer and the staff, and things we won't? Like, we've kind of said that speed in probably some of the worst conditions in Clearview, the hilly part of Clearview, in Ottawa, that we're not going to use speed to address vertical and horizontal curves. So are we eliminating speed? You remember one time when we approved the comprehensive study, we had to add in speed, intentionally had to add in speed. I believe maybe the deputy mayor actually had a motion that included that. So what do we say to staff now going forward? Have we set a precedent? Have we changed the conditions of our traffic management study that we asked them to follow?
No. Councillor, normally when we have these debates, we respectfully let everybody speak, and then the chairperson gets the opportunity to wrap it up. Many times I've given you the opportunity to speak, and so I've given you the opportunity to speak. Are you finished speaking? I'm just asking, and politely, because I would like to then do a wrap up, and then I'd like to conclude this portion of the meeting. We finished? All right. I appreciate what you said, Councillor Patterson. We will always work within the abilities and the constraints that we have as a local municipal government. We are not the province. We are not the federal government. We don't have the resources like they do, but we also have to be reasonable and use taxpayers' dollars wisely and effectively to provide all the services. And this is just one of those things that we have to be careful with. And it's a very difficult decision. And sometimes it's not easy to make decisions, but decisions do need to be made. And this is part of it. Members of council, I've concluded my comments, and I would like to ask, we have a mover and seconder on the motion. Madam Clerk, I'm prepared to call the motion. Are there those in favor? Are there those opposed? The motion does not carry. Thank you. Remember, we're going to go to our next recommendation, which is 11-14. 11-14 is in regards to the Riverside Drive Concession 6 North and Concession 6. Also, this was reconsidered at our last meeting. As I said before, we will consider this a new debate. So I will look for a new mover and seconder after I read the resolution, and we will carry on with the procedure of reviewing this material and having a debate and having a decision rendered. Members of council, I'll read the recommendation. Was there something? Did I miss something? No. Okay. I was unsure. Okay. I didn't miss something here, did I?
Your worship, just there were a couple of motions. What did we approve? What was the motion that we just approved? Just to be
The
certain.
motion we approved was to get a report from the about costing of OPP expenses for enforcement. If I may say, I think that still carries because that was a motion within the motion. Madam Clerk?
Through your worship. So if you may, so council carried a motion directing staff to consult with the OPP to determine the costs associated with increasing the police speed enforcement. The motion to reduce the speed limit on Fairgrounds Road from 80 to 60 has been defeated.
Okay. So there's two things that occurred there that I wasn't quite clear on. That helps clarify it for me.
Okay, please jump in anytime if you need clarity. This one gets complicated sometimes. You know, I was quoted in the paper recently by some time ago, actually saying that this is about procedural gymnastics. And actually, this is exactly what it is. Gymnastics. Okay, members of council, 11.14. I've made my preliminary comments on that. Now I'm going to read the recommendation. I'll look for a mover and seconder. Be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one approves reducing the speed limit on Riverside Drive from 70 kilometers per hour to 60 kilometers per hour from County Road 9 to 1516 Side Road and Concession 6 North from County Road 91 for 1.1 kilometers be reduced from 80 kilometers per hour to 60 kilometers per hour from where the 50 kilometer per hour zone ends to the Poplar Side Road be changed from 80 kilometers per hour to 60 kilometers per hour. To address horizontal alignment constraints, be directed staff to present the speed reduction bylaw at the next council meeting. And item 2, that the expenditure in the amount of $11,854 to reduce the speed on the roads be funded through the Public Works capital budget for traffic control devices. Okay, mover and seconder. That'd be Mr. McKechnie, seconded. Mr. Patterson, thank you. Does anybody like to comment on this? I know our staff are still available too. Members of council. Oh, Mr. McKechnie, I'm going to mark you down first. Who else? Phyllis, did I see your card? Thank you. Okay, Mr. McKechnie, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make an amendment to this motion.
Okay.
And the amendment would be that that we eliminate the portion from Poplar Side Road or from the battle, basically. So it's for the new clerk. It says from where the 50 kilometer per hour zone ends to the Poplar Side Road be changed from 80 kilometers per hour to 60 kilometers per hour. I would just like that whole sentence eliminated. And basically, Your Worship and members of council, I'm mostly concerned about that 1.1 kilometer section from County Road 91 North. You're all familiar with it. It's the area in front of the 6-line church. I would also like, Madam Clerk, you could drop that initial part on Riverside Drive from 70 kilometers per hour to 60 kilometers per hour. From County Road 9 to 1516 Side Road, you can take that right out as well. So basically, I think council knows what I'm talking about. I just mainly am concerned about the 1.1 kilometers in front of the 6-line church. That's a cluster of houses. It's got a church. It's got sometimes a daycare center and sometimes Montessori school, even though I don't think they're active right now. It's got a stable, it's got a graveyard, and it's got a cluster of houses. And those people have been asking for 60 kilometers per hour there for a couple of years now. And so that's my main concern is that area. So anyway, I'm not sure if I've explained it well enough to the clerk, to the new clerk, but I think council knows what I'm talking about.
Councilor McKechnie, I'll help you out here a little bit on this, even though I haven't got a seconder yet. So I'm just going to defer to the clerk. Madam Clerk, do you see that there are 3 items in this single motion, correct?
Through your worship, you are correct. And I believe what Councillor McKechnie is saying is approves reducing the speed limit on Concession 6 North from County Road 91 for 1.1 kilometers be reduced from 80 kilometers to 60 kilometers. And then keep the rest to say to address the horizontal alignment constraints by directing staff to present the speed reduction pilot to council at the next meeting. And further that the expenditure in the amount of $11,854 to reduce the speed on the road be funded from the Public Works capital budget for traffic control devices.
I tell you what, you got a great clerk here. That's exactly what you were looking for. Did you hear that?
I assume it is. I was just wondering, should I do a separate motion? Would that be cleaner?
You know what? Because this has been a reconsidered motion,
Yeah.
let's just amend this. If that's the way you want to do that.
Yeah, sure.
If we
That's fine.
simply defeat it, then you go through the gymnastics
Right.
of reconsidering and all that.
Yeah. Okay.
So before I look for my seconder, because I'm not even looking up at my counselors at this time, Madam Clerk, you are comfortable with the ask that the counselor has asked for?
Through your worship, that is correct.
Okay, then I'll look up and look for a seconder on the motion. Yes, a question? Go ahead.
I'm not clear on what the new motion is going to be, but once you delete what he.
How about I read it? Mr. McKechnie, just jump in if you think it's wrong. I'm going to read it from my memory here. Be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve reducing the speed limit on County Road on Concession 6 North from County Road 91, 1.1 kilometers be reduced from 80 kilometers per hour to 60 kilometers per hour to address horizontal alignment constraints by directing staff to present the speed reduction bylaw at the next council meeting. And item 2, that the expenditure in the amount of $11,854 to reduce the speed in the road funded through the Public Works capital budget for traffic control devices. How am I doing? McKechnie, your thumbs up? I'm looking, Madam Clerk. Yep. And Tom, are you asking a question or are you seconding? I'm looking for seconds.
That would reduce.
Yeah, that's the number. If you don't mind, if I can ask the clerk, or sorry, the CAO, if we put that number in, obviously any savings that may be resultant will just go back into the account. Is that correct?
We're only going to spend the necessary amount. It's always nice to know what the necessary amount is, but in this circumstance, you don't have it anticipated.
Correct. That's a good answer. Tom?
Is a motion?
No, it's an amendment.
Sorry, this is an amendment to this motion.
Sorry,
One
Madam
vote,
Clerk.
and we're amending it
Hang
to
on,
this.
Ms. Clerk.
So through your worship, if you'd like, what we could do is say, Councillor McKechnie moved it, Councillor Patterson seconded. Be resolved that the motion be amended by deleting the words on Riverside Drive from 70 kilometers an hour to 60 kilometers an hour, from County Road 9 to 1516 Side Road, and from where the 50 kilometer zone ends to the Poplar Side Road be changed from 80 kilometers to 60 kilometers. So that's what your amendment's going to be. So you're deleting those words out of the main motion. Then you're going to vote on deleting those words. And then the main motion, when it comes forward, will just be approves reducing the speed limit on Concession Road 6 north from County Road 91 for 1.1 kilometers to reduce from 80 kilometers an hour to 60 kilometers an hour. To address horizontal alignment constraints by directing staff to present the speed reduction bylaw at the next council meeting. And that the expenditure in the amount of $11,854 to reduce the speed on the road be funded from the Public Works capital budget for traffic control devices.
So my second was for the motion
As it stands.
as it stands.
Correct.
Not the reduction. So I'll withdraw my second for that. I don't, if the motion will end up being just the piece
All right.
from 991 to 1.1 kilometers north.
It's your prerogative to withdraw your second if you wish.
Well, I'm asking for clarification.
All right.
If the motion will now be the 1.1 kilometers north of 91, all right, then I would ask that we break this up into separate motions because I don't disagree with that piece. But I don't agree with the other amendment, which says that we do not lower the speed from 70 to 60 on Riverside Drive from 9 to 1560.
Point of order.
Yep, go ahead on the point.
Point of order is we're voting on an amendment. So we should be voting on the amendment. And then after the amendment is approved or disproved, if it's passed or not passed. If it is passed, then council, that would be the time that Councillor Patterson would withdraw his second. But until the amendment is voted on, the original motion still stands.
Yeah, but I do believe the seconder can withdraw their second.
Yeah, but he's trying to do it before the amendment's been passed.
I know, but I think you could still do it anytime. Madam Clerk.
Sorry, through your worship. So Councillor Patterson, when we had the original motion on the table,
Right.
okay, we need to put the original motion on the table. In order to do that, we need the mover and seconder.
So I seconded that.
That's right. And all you're doing is putting the motion on the table to
Right.
consider. Okay, so what's happened now is Councillor McKechnie has brought an amendment forward.
Yeah.
So he's moved the amendment. We just need a seconder.
And I don't second that.
No, that's fine. So through your
Thank you.
worship.
Thank you for that clarification.
And then what would happen is, once you vote on that amendment, the main motion would come forward as amended.
In amended
We'd
form.
vote and
Right.
vote on that.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do I need another seconder or not
Through your worship, yes, you would for the amendment.
for the amendment?
Yes, that is
I
correct.
needed a seconder for the amendment, Council. Madam, okay. Phyllis Deneen. Thank you, Councillor Deneen, for stepping forward on that. Council, we have an amendment in front of you. We're looking for discussion on the amendment, in the amendment only. Seeing none, my comment will be that we've had a good discussion and performed some gymnastics. So I'm prepared to call the motion if members of council are prepared. On the amendment as amended. Those in favor? Opposed? And that does carry. Thank you. Is there a discussion, Councillor Patterson, on the seconder on the original motion? You're the seconder on the original motion because the motion to amend.
So now the motion as it reads only includes the 1.1 kilometers.
Correct.
Which I now, of course, agree with. But since we really don't care about good traffic management, I feel that that's an area that we could reduce anyways, because we have a few of these 60 kilometer zones where it's needed, the cemetery, the church, a number of homes, a hill, a knoll, coming off a high-speed arterial road. So it's a separate piece of our traffic management. I would continue to support that.
Okay, good. So we have a motion in front of us, members. Oh, we still have a motion in front of us, now amended. Mr. McKechnie, did you want to speak further?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm okay. I understand what you're saying, Tom. I didn't want to lose this.
No, they die. No, they die.
You know, based on the Riverside Drive thing, but anyway. So I'm ready to vote.
Members of council, we've got a motion with a mover and seconder. It's been amended. The main motion is now on the table. Last call, any other comments? No further comments? Madam Clerk, I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor of the amended motion? Are there opposed? And that'll carry. We did change the speeds. How about that? Members of council, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, any questions?
Your worship, can I
Yes.
jump in here again?
Yeah.
Just wondering if I might put a motion on the table then to address Councillor Patterson's concern that we, and I somewhat agree with them, that we reduce Riverside Drive from County Road 9 to the 1516 side road to 60 kilometers per hour. So let's put that on the table. I'd like to put that motion forward and have the discussion. And
yes, Councillor Denis.
Through your worship, I would like to ask Dan, that portion of road is it not to be reconstructed in the near future?
Can I ask you hold for just a second on that?
Sure.
We haven't even got there yet as far, but that's a good point. And I would appreciate, we're going to hold on that question. Madam Clerk, I'm going to accept the motion and I'll look for a seconder on Councillor McKechnie's motion. You understand the motion, Madam Clerk?
Sorry, through your worship, I didn't hear him clearly.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. Hey, Doug. Read the motion again, please.
So the motion would be that we reduce the speed from 70 kilometers per hour to 60 kilometers per hour on Riverside Drive from County Road 9 to the 1516 side road.
Supplemental to that would be that any funds would come out of the Public Works capital budget for traffic control devices.
Sure. Yep.
Madam, or Tom?
Could I ask what's going on here?
We're trying to.
Is this not a reconsideration? Like, why take it out and then put it back in? I don't understand.
I was going to call a point of order on
Yeah,
this.
thank you for that.
I think that was, the amendment was made. It was, the amendment was supported, so it was withdrawn. To try to throw it back in, I think is is not a correct point of order. I think that time has passed.
I concur. Here's my challenge as your mayor. When members bring forward motions, I'm obligated to listen to what you have to say. I'm not going to rule and say that it's not permissible for you to bring a motion, particularly when we're on the topic. So, Deputy Mayor, while you're correct, the challenge here from this desk is that I need to hear from my councilors and Deputy Mayor on motions, because I, as your mayor, don't make motions. I know. Did I have a seconder on that motion? I don't recall.
Well, we're caught up in this. Of course, I would second the motion to lower the speed.
Point of order again. Can I rely on Madam Clerk to advise us to me, once this has been pulled out and we've already voted on the motion to put it back in, I mean, to me, it's becoming another matter of reconsideration again. It's like, you're the expert on these procedures, so please guide us.
Thank you, through your worship. I would say that is a reconsideration. Council has just voted to remove Riverside Drive from 70 kilometers an hour to 60 from County Road 9 to 1516 side road from the original motion. The amendment was carried. Council had voted to remove that from the motion, so it would be a reconsideration.
So that means we would have to have a 2/3 vote to reconsider that. And doesn't that, is that correct?
All right. So then let's just be clear, which is really difficult on this stuff, to be honest. I have been very, very patient to allow every member to speak. And I think that it's important for us to continue to build a good relationship as a working council to do that. And it's interesting, Tom, when you brought up, say, what's going on here? If we put it in and put it out, put it in, and yet you're the person who mentioned, then we should have the motions separated. And then the person who made the actual motion is the person who asked for it to come back as a secondary motion. And the deputy mayor is right. It's already been removed from the procedure, so we shouldn't bring it back. But again, I'm trying to be cooperative with our members and make sure that our members have the opportunity to bring forward what they want. I would actually give some advice, if I may, and that is that I think we should look at this another day. Because if you think that we need to bring this forward at another time, at another council, at another time, that would be just fine with me, because a notice of reconsideration should be given after that sober second thought. I think this council has already learned that on our term with several notices of reconsideration. So I don't think a reconsideration motion at this time would be appropriate. I'm going to go to the mover first, Tom. Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. So just as a matter of explanation to the deputy mayor, Barry, all I was doing was, we had a motion originally in front of us with 3 sections of road. We had Riverside Drive, we had the 1.1 kilometers in front of the 6-line church, and we had the area north of the Bat Hole. My feeling was that I really wanted to get that 1.1 kilometer section in front of the 6-line church reduced to 60 kilometers per hour. So I wanted to break that out on its own. I didn't want to lose that I didn't want to keep Riverside Drive in there and risk losing the 1.1 kilometers. Because I thought if some people think, well, Riverside Drive should stay at 70, so I'm going to vote, against McKechnie's motion, then I would lose that area in front of the Six Lines Church. So that's why I broke it out the way I did. I don't mind. We can, excuse me, Deputy Mayor, I'm speaking to you. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't mind. We can reconsider it down the road. I don't mind doing that. I think everyone here is probably, most people are in agreement that Riverside Drive area is, certainly shouldn't be any more than 70, and maybe 60 is the more appropriate speed for it. But that was the reason why I did it the way I did. So if we want to reconsider it down the road, I'm fine with that. I have no problem. But I did not want to lose that vote on the 1.1 kilometers in front of the Six Line Church. That's why I did it the way I did it.
Again, being respectful, Deputy Mayor, I acknowledge you're looking to speak. Mr. Patterson did indicate he wanted to speak. Go ahead, Mr. Patterson.
So two things, the reconsideration of this applies also to the reconsideration on Fairgrounds Road. The second point is, and one of the saving graces perhaps, and so the public is aware that we're still trying to do the right thing. It's reported to us several times, there's nothing official from staff yet, that there is a plan to rebuild sections of Riverside Drive from 9 to 15, 16. And I would ask Dan to at least comment and put some reality to some of this discussions.
Mr. Patterson.
We'll get to
Mr. Perot here in a moment.
It's always been told to us that it would be unlikely when we rebuild that road that we'll be able to post it greater than 60.
We'll get to that.
So hopefully that will happen next year if we don't do a reconsideration. But I would like to hear that comment from.
We'll get to that in a moment. I appreciate that. Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Councillor McKechnie, I totally understand what you did. Didn't have to explain it to me. I got it from the very beginning. You wanted, there was one important thing you wanted to get covered. So you played your cards, you bailed out. Now you want to play the deck again. It doesn't work that way. It's a notice of reconsideration. So it should be put forth at least at the next meeting, not at this meeting. You can't do a notice of reconsideration the minute after it's already been voted on. And especially when you're the one who voted to pull it out of the original motion. So I understand what you did. It was a good move on your part. I get it. And you were successful at protecting what you wanted to protect. But the next thing is a notice of consideration, which cannot come up at least until the next meeting.
Exactly.
Not at this meeting. Sorry, it's a point of order. That's all. It's nothing personal, Doug. It's just a point of order.
Thank you. Last person to speak, back to Councillor Deneen.
All I was asking was, through your worship, to Dan Perot. The section of Riverside Drive is supposed to be from County Road 9 to the 1516 side road is supposed to be reconstructed in the near future. And I believe Councillor Patterson alluded to it as well. They will decide at that time, I'm sure, if it's going to be 70 or 60 during construction. There will be reports from the engineers what would be viable for that road. Is that right, Dan, once it's constructed?
We'll get to Dan in just 1 second. I just want to clarify. Mr. McKechnie, we're going to consider your motion withdrawn at this time. Is that right?
Which motion is that?
Well,
Is that the Riverside Drive motion we're talking about here? Yeah, you know what? Let's withdraw it. And if we want to open it up for reconsideration down the road, I'll do that. So.
All right, that's up to members of council. So thank you, Mr. McKechnie. I appreciate your patience and your understanding. Ms. Deneen, I want to be clear that now we're not discussing any specific actions. We're looking for information. So I turn to the CAO and see if the CAO through the staff, Mr. Perot can join us and perhaps explain or talk to us a little bit about future works on that piece of road. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I see Dan's on camera, so if he's heard the question clearly, I'm sure he can provide us his thoughts.
Hello, Dan. Can you join us?
Hello, Your Worship. Yeah, so if council recalls, in 2021, funds were made available to do the engineering and design work for Riverside Drive and for Centerline Road, north of County Road 9. Those works are underway. They have been, I'll say, stalled a little bit because they weren't moving forward in 2022. But as part of the design work, we have asked our engineers to look at the speed, and they've assured me that that is something they do as part of any design of a roadway, is to look at what the appropriate speed factors would be, similar to what they did on concession 10 north of County Road 90, or north of Road 91.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Perot. Thank you for joining us and continue to bring us good information and good data. All right, Ms. Deneen, you comfortable with that answer?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. CAO, anything further from that?
No, just to help council, because a lot of things are happening at once here, and it's very important that we try to keep our procedures as tight as we can. And it's difficult to really unpack exactly when a motion's made and it's seconded, and if you call on the question, Your Worship,
yep,
then it's council's now.
Yeah,
it's no longer an individual. Can I withdraw a second? Can I withdraw my main motion? It now becomes council's determination of whether they want the matter voted on, or they can withdraw the motions going forward. So so as people are discussing, just in the future, if you call the question, it now belongs to council. It's
Correct.
No longer up to any individual. You have to vote on it in some way.
Well, thank you for that reminder. And that is pretty well what I've been trying to do. This has been a difficult debate over many years and many meetings. And I think we've pretty well bantied around everything possible. I'd like to leave it at this point, if I may, by saying, please slow down. We have a real issue across our township, and it's the behavior of drivers. It's been talked about many, many times. I mention it when I'm on the radio in the morning show, when I get an opportunity. Please slow down, people. All right, members of council, Madam Clerk, I think we can move towards our department reports and bylaws, item number 12. Usually the busiest part of our council meeting. All right, council. We have the community improvements application in regards to some changes that are being proposed. Our staff have prepared a report. I'll read the recommendation and look for a mover and seconder. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive report CS 035 2022, community improvement applications dated June 27, 2022. And item 2, approve the community improvement grants as per the Director of Community Services report CS 035 2022 for the following properties. Property A is 7796 Highway 26. Property B is 7304 Highway 26. Can I have a mover and seconder on this important motion? Mr. Walker, Mr. Lamers, thank you very much. I believe Mara is on the call. Did Mara want to say something about this, or was she with us? I don't.
Yeah. Thank you, Your Worship. Just want to say that I'm happy to see some CIP applications back before you. I think these are two very prominent locations in downtown Stayner, and we've got 4 businesses that will benefit here. So just looking forward to council dealing with these applications.
Well, thank you very much. I do look forward to that too. The CIP program is a very good program and does offer small businesses the opportunity to do some work. And I appreciate the work that you and your staff do to review these and consult with the applicants on the various levels of work that are required. So good for you. Members of council, any questions to Mara or of the report? All right. Thank you, Mayor Burton, for joining us. Members of council, you've got a motion in front of you. I'm prepared to call the motion. Those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Council, moving on, we're on page 6. Is that right? Yes. Page 6, zoning bylaw amendment regarding 11 Locke Avenue, Stainer. Recommendation, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive report CS 036 2022 zoning bylaw amendment for 11 Locke Avenue, Stainer, dated June 27, 2022. Item 2, that bylaw 2242 for the lands municipally known as 21 Locke Avenue, Stainer, and legally described as the west part of Lot 26, Concession 2, formerly in the Township of Nottawasaga, now in the Township of Clearview, be presented to Council for approval. Mover and seconder on the motion, please. Deneen and Broderick, thank you. Any questions to our staff on this? We got several in Locke Avenue. We had a bit of a meeting on this. Yes, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick question to Mr. Ron. Water allotments, now that those lots were 80 feet and now they're going to be split in half. Is there just a single water curb stop, or has the other one been purchased, or will they have to wait to develop the second lot once the water allotments has increased?
I know that Roslyn was on there. I don't see Mr. Ron. Is Mr. Ron?
I'm here, Your Worship, if needed.
Oh, okay. There you are. Hello, Mike.
Hi. Sure. Councillor Walker, through the chair. We had, when we started the process, approximately 43 units of water capacity available for infill lots. Because the township is, for the lack of better terminology, we're solving an issue with the children getting to school, and by doing that, we're putting pipes in the ground because we have to. We're forcing people to pay for it. So those 2 extra lots will get 2 units of allocation. They will have to pay for the services to go in, but that's again, because we're doing the servicing bylaw, that's why we're taking that approach.
All right, Mr. Walker, anything further?
So then also secondary to that, I see the sign is up for the next lot towards the east from the one from 11. So that would be maybe 13. The sign has been put up for that separation to 2 as well. So has that been included in the design then for Locke Avenue that you're getting into within the next day or 2?
Through Your Worship, yes. And Dan's leading the discussions with the contractors, but the people that have been in discussions with us regarding new lots, those lots will get services. The cost to put a service in during a major construction project is relatively low. It's included with the servicing bylaw costs. If Dan has anything to add to that, I believe there was only the 2 lots at that end of Locke that are severing, right?
Yes, I believe.
Thank you, Your Worship. And further to Director Ron's comments, there is 21. It's a bit of an odd situation there. 21 has sewer services, so we're planning on installing a second sanitary sewer and 2 water services. So a bit of a different situation there from 11, but 11 is proposed or planned to have 2 separate services, 2 separate water and 2 separate sanitary services installed to the property line. Hope that answers your question. And potentially, I believe, I'm not sure where in the planning process, there is another potential lot that will be getting services for the future.
Mr. Walker, comfortable? All right. Just as an aside, Mr. Walker, if you could pull your microphone towards you, it started to feed back there. I don't know if you could hear it through that plastic that we're talking. All right, that's better. Thank you very much for that. Any other questions in regards to CS 036, 11 Locke Avenue? Nothing further? All right, council. Thank you, staff, and thank you for that explanation. Members of council, we got a motion with a mover and second. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Members of council, I'm going to continue through page 6, and that'll finish this section of the council agenda, and then we'll have a brief recess. So let me continue on. CS 037 2022, zoning bylaw amendment for 21 Locke Avenue. Be it resolved, council of the township of Clearview hereby receive report CS 037 2022, zoning bylaw amendment for 21 Locke Avenue, Stainer, dated June 27, 2022. And bylaw number 22-43 for the lands municipally known as 21 Locke Avenue, Stainer, and legally described as west part of lot 26, concession 2, registered plan 51R658, part 14, formerly in Nottawasaga Township, now in the Township of Clearview, be presented to council for approval. A mover and seconder on that motion. Deneen, Broderick, thank you. Any questions on this one? 21 Locke Avenue? All right, seeing none, council and staff, thank you. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Council number CS 038 2022, zoning bylaw amendment for 34 Locke Avenue. Recommendation be it resolved that council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report CS 038 2022, zoning bylaw amendment for 34 Locke Avenue, Stainer, dated June 27, 2022. And item 2, that bylaw 2251 for the lands municipally known as 34 Locke Avenue, Stainer, and legally described as part of lot 26, PCL 7, concession 2, formerly in the Township of Nottawasaga, now in the Township of Clearview, be presented to council for approval. Okay, a mover on this one. Deneen, Deputy Mayor this time. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any questions on 34 Locke Avenue? Seeing none? Thank you, and thank you, staff. Council, you got a motion in front of you. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous again. Thank you. Council, we have the Committee of Adjustment, June reports. Recommendation be resolved. Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report CS 039 2022, Committee of Adjustment report for June, dated June 27, 2022 for information. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Leishman. Thank you, Councillor Leishman. Any questions on the Committee of Adjustment report? Seeing none, Council, you got a motion? I'm prepared to call a motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous again. Thank you very much. At the pleasure of the chair, if it's possible, I would like to call for a recess and have us all rejoin at 5 minutes to 8. Is that comfortable to everyone? Thank you, Madam Clerk. If you could ask for our live stream to be halted for a few minutes. Thank you.